Could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will proceed with roll call. Commissioner Kramer. Here. Present.
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke.
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Present.
Commissioner Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Algier.
Here.
Commissioner Lautner.
Present.
And I'll just remind our new commissioners and our older ones to please speak into the microphones. That'll be helpful for us. Next, we have public comment. Does anyone wish to make public comment? If so, please come forward and state your name. It's limited to 5 minutes. Mr. Makowski.
Good morning. I want to welcome all of you to this new commission. And I guess there are 4 new members. That is a new majority with no party affiliation at the moment. We are looking forward to hoping there will be an improvement and restoration of credibility, integrity, and character in this public body. We respectfully request that you consider the following as you select a chair and continue on with county business. Avoid being misguided as elected officials to believe and act as if you are omniscient and omnipotent. Avoid special interest projects. Tell the people immediately as you take office, you will grow the government to be more intrusive in our private lives and to overtax us and overspend. Every project you address must have a good description, carefully prepared with a clarification of need, necessity, justification, analysis. Identifying a benefit for a significant majority of the county's 22,000 residents, taxpayers, or inhabitants. Commissioners over the years have self-initiated all millage taxes. The people did not come to you asking for new millages for anything. The commissioners initiated themselves after a handful of people came to these meetings and demanded it. 2 of these taxes, early childhood development, and another one, senior citizens, benefit less than 1% of the total population of this county. Now, if that doesn't represent special interest, something is fishy here. So we've concluded that much of the activity the commissioners do, and this also happens at the township level. Governing at these levels is under color of law and seemingly a fraud. Again, we want to repeat that electors never have come to this county, as I've attended over 35 years of meetings, asking for the commission or the county to do something for them. Commissioners are taxpayers' employees with benefits second to none and mileage paid to attend any meeting associated with county business. Goals. The commissioners or the board of commissioners has one goal: to provide the people the best possible, least cost Republican form of limited government. There should be no other goals except governance, unless mandated by some state law or federal law, or it is extremely essential, or it is lawfully petitioned for by the people. by a lawful petition. Now, every time each one of you votes on any proposal, put your wallets on the table. And when you vote, you will tell us that this is such a good thing for all, that will benefit all the people of this county, that you will pay for it all yourself, 100%. It is so good for all of us. Otherwise, find another way to solve the problem or vote another way. Again, I ask you to put your wallets on the table every time you vote for things, particularly things that talk about lots of money. And again, we are looking forward to a restoration of Leelanau County Commission's stature in this community. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment that anyone wishes to make? Okay, remember you're limited to 5 minutes.
Again, my regular sign says, we demand honest elections. in our
Bill,
league."
could you state your name for the record, please?
I'm very sorry. Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Again, regular sign says, we demand honest elections in our Leelanau County by replacing Dominion voting machines with secure paper ballots. So there will be no fraud. No one wants fraud. And the only way to do that, to have one person, one ballot, one vote, one day. We're getting all sorts of stuff all over the country, all over the world, counting Brazil. They don't even have paper ballots. That's worse yet. So that's what we're asking for. That's what I'm asking for. And people all over the country spending countless hours working on something we really shouldn't have to be concerned about. It's not that we have to promote or produce evidence of the fraud. Our governor, our people that we elect should show that there's no fraud. And we can't even look in the machines, and they're black boxes. And I don't care how much training we get and do these pre-tests, but votes still get flipped. Okay, I don't know how much time I have, but this handout, I'll just start with a little reading from a telegram to Red Pills' group that I follow from Utah. And this guy writes, I don't know who Scott Adams is, but it makes sense. He says, we have corrupt CEOs, a corrupt crypto exchange, corrupt politicians, corrupt judges, corrupt unions, corrupt intel people, corrupt news, corrupt social media, corrupt healthcare, corrupt FBI, corrupt big food, and fair elections in every state. That's what so many people are concerned about. 59% of the people believe the elections were determined through fraud. That was for the 2020 election and after the 2022 midterm election. So this, I don't know exactly how much time, so I'm probably going to run out, so I'm going to breeze through this. But you can go to www.operationsunlight.com. And is that what we need or not about this? Be able to, everyone be assured the elections are honest. This Robert Beatles is kind of the head guy. He looks at the two biggest counties, including Las Vegas, in Nevada. And precinct 6413, all of them have the same pattern. In precinct 6413, you look at Republicans, reps is Republicans, only voting, early voting, I think that should say. Only voting? Okay, no, there's early voting and then there's mail-in voting. Those are the two main ones. You plug him into this formula over here and he can find the election, let's see, he can find, he can guess or he can estimate real accurately. Down at the bottom of this right column, you can see it. Look at the Dems, mail-in voting, 357. That was what they said it was. And through the calculations, they got 351.4. And you can follow it. Go to his site and he explains it very well. He calls it a Christmas present to you. It's absolute proof that there was fraud. And if there's fraud in Nevada, there can be fraud in Michigan. On the back, just so I'm almost out of time, there's a very complicated looking chart. He offers a $50,000 reward for anyone who can disprove this math. That one's even more accurate. And then from the last little chart is from a 2022 midterm. It shows how the votes are flipped. The early voting, it flipped 140 some votes, and you can see how he did it. It's not the early, it's the mail-in voting that's what's getting flipped. And that's shown in the chart. I urge you to go to the website. And that's similar to Dr. Douglas G. Frank's. Look at all the Grand Traverse, Antrim, Charlevoix counties, all showed a very high percentage of, it wouldn't happen that way, 0.997. It just doesn't happen. It's the
Thank you,
mail-in
sir,
vote.
for your comments. Your 5 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment this morning? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on with our agenda. We're to additions and deletions. Are there any additions or deletions that anyone has today? Seeing all negatives. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Commissioner Algar?
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Support.
Seconded by Ross and O'Rourke. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There being none, motion carries 7-0. The first item on today's action items is election of chairman. The process that we will use as we move forward is any nomination does require a second. In the event that we end up with more than one nomination, then each of the commissioners will indicate when we get to that point if their vote is for one of those candidates or none of those candidates. So I see Commissioner Algar is waving at me. Do you have a nomination?
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners elect Ty Wessel as chairman of the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners for a 2-year term.
For a 2-year term, and that was who supported that?
I did.
Commissioner Moore. Are there any other nominations for chairman? There being none, I will close nominations and we will just, do you want a roll call or a voice vote? Okay, I'll do a roll call since no one spoke up. So this will be just for Commissioner Wessel to be chairman for the next 2 years. Commissioner Allgaier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel.
Yes.
7-0, Commissioner Wessel is declared chairman for the next 2 years, and we'd like to call for a 5-minute recess just to reorganize for a second, if that's okay.
Five minutes is up.
Recess is up.
It's
only
three.
Yeah.
That Creamer was talking to you.
Okay. Kim.
Everybody's sitting here. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
So we're ahead of schedule because it's only been 4 minutes. Michelle, you ready?
I am.
Thank you, commissioners, for your vote of support. And I look forward to working well together with everybody. And
Yes,
I'll talk
turn
you to it.
to your microphone.
Yes. It was moved over here. You moved it.
I did. I thought.
Well, our first order of business is the election of vice chair. I think we'll use the same process that we used for chair. Commissioner O'Rourke.
I just want to nominate Melinda Lautner for the vice chair.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I would nominate Commissioner Rexroth for vice chair.
Second.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Did I get support for Melinda Lautner?
Melinda, you can second that nomination.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any more nominations for vice chair? Okay, well, would you do a roll call, Michelle, and indicate in your vote whether it's for Melinda or Doug?
Okay, so we're going to do a roll call first on Commissioner O'Rourke's nomination for Lautner. Is that what you asked me to do?
Yes.
I think we were going to use the
Oh,
same
you're going to
process.
use the
so
same
call
process
each
where I just
person-
call their name and they tell me if they would like Lautner or Rexroth.
Right.
Got it. O'Rourke,
Lautner.
Rexroth,
Lautner.
Ross,
Rexroth.
Wessel,
Rexroth.
Algier,
Rexroth.
Kramer,
Rexroth.
Lautner,
Myself.
Lautner. It was 3 for Lautner and 4 for Rexroth.
Congratulations.
We have a vice chair. Thank you. We now have approval of the 2023 rules of orders and procedures. We have had that in our packet. And open it up for discussion. I noticed a couple. We did change mid-year prayer to a moment of silence. And so without objection, we could vote on that to change that to a moment of silence after the pledge instead of a moment of prayer.
I would. Need a motion for that?
I think we could get all of our suggestions, and if there's not consensus, then if there's consensus on all those, we can vote on all of them at once. Otherwise, we can take one at a time.
I would support that, just a moment of silence and people can do their own interpretation. I'll probably use that. I think that
Then
is sufficient.
let's get a motion on the floor for that change in our rules, which is really a reaffirmation of what we're currently doing. But this is a new commission, so are you making a motion?
Yes, I would so move. Is that sufficient, or do you want me to say? I would move that we change the phrase, how do I say that, to a moment of silence.
We have a proposed agenda in our rules of order, and it's on page.
I'm just looking for a bigger pen version.
Laurel said page 10.
Thank you.
So where it says moment of silence / personal prayer, for the executive, and I'm presuming the regular, you want that just to say, you're proposing moment of silence,
Yes.
as listed on page 10 and 11.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Who seconded that? I'm not making a motion, I'm just trying to hear what you're saying.
Yes, so that I would move that on page 10.
You know, when I brought this up, it did still say in our original moment of prayer. But this probably, as it's written, covers what we're doing. But we do have a motion now, so any discussion? Yes. Mr. Lavin?
So. I think you are exactly correct, because by changing it to a moment of silence, I mean, what is the purpose, I guess, rather than how it's written? Personal prayer, moment of silence / personal prayer, moment of silence. So what's the problem with how it's written exactly?
I believe that in most situations, it's just written moment of silence. And people can then interpret that in any way they choose to. I think most people say, they're a prayer in their own concept of what that is. But I don't think we need to define it for people. It's a moment of silence, and that's always been a solemn moment for me. I never needed it defined, and I don't see any reason for us to do so. Moment of silence is powerful.
But just a moment of silence is a moment of silence. So I think that the moment of silence / personal prayer allows both. If someone wants to stand there in silence and not have a single thought in their head, they're allowed. And by taking out personal prayer, as you say, most people are praying anyway. That's what you just said.
In their own way. Yeah.
In their own way. So I don't see any reason to change it. I think it's just fine.
And I wish I wouldn't have made my comment at the beginning, because when I was reading this very early this morning, I saw prayer, but I think this is how we've been introducing it, moment of silence, person to person. I'm not going to vote to support the motion. I'll leave it how it is, as long as we have the moment of silence / personal prayer. Yes, Doug.
I would concur with your judgment there, Ty, Commissioner Wessel.
I don't really care. I could withdraw that, because if it means a lot to somebody, then that's okay. So I will withdraw that one.
Okay with a second?
I'm just confused, because here on our agenda, it clearly just says moment of silence. So where are you seeing?
It was in our rules.
Okay, so, but we're not, this wasn't done at our first meeting, so, yeah. So now we're gonna go back to what this says in the handbook. I guess I just don't understand why we're even talking about it, because clearly here it says moment of silence. But I'm okay either way too, so I will withdraw my, absolutely.
Without objection, I suggest we withdraw the motion, if that's okay.
Sure.
Any objection?
I already do that.
The other thing that I thought when I was reading the enterprise last week in 2022 in review, and I remember a year or 2 years ago, I think, when I wanted to limit the chair's ability to edit the agenda alone. And I believe that every commissioner should have the opportunity to say, we want this on the agenda, and the chair shouldn't overrule that. And it has been our practice only a couple of times for the chair to overrule a commissioner. But I would like to have in our rules of order that agenda items are brought forward by any commissioner that wants to have an agenda item. And if the group doesn't agree, then they can amend the agenda at the meeting.
I agree completely. I would hate to say here my first day and think that I can't put something on the agenda. So as long as it's within the 6 days prior that, but I would support that, yes.
Anybody else?
I concur with that position, especially since the group has the opportunity, you have the agenda at the meeting to remove it anyway, if it seems to be just like a left field thing. So I agree.
If we're in agreement on that, under the chair responsibilities,
What page, please?
Yeah.
6, everything?
page 6 and 7 is a section on chairperson. Melinda, I'll call on you for this, because you remember the discussion we had on that item. I had proposed something on the agenda and Commissioner Bunnick took it off. And he said he thought we had already covered that in previous meetings and he didn't approve it. And I found, I don't think the rules of order define that can or can't happen. And I think it should say in our rules that any commissioner can advance an agenda to the administrator's office within the time period spelled.
That's in there.
I think that's a good idea.
Do we need that in writing or is that an understanding?
Are you,
Yes, Commissioner Lauder.
are you looking to change the days then from the 6 days? What is,
I'm looking to just make sure that everybody sitting at this table know that they have the opportunity to put something on the agenda. And if we don't want to have it on the agenda, that's a group decision, not a chair decision.
so right now, we're allowed to have an item placed on the agenda, notify the administrator's office 6 days in advance. Or it can be added as a late item as stated.
I'm not sure it's stated specifically. What you want to do is avoid the chairman of the board having the authority to overrule a fellow commissioner when they try to place something on the agenda.
That is correct.
And I'm not sure that.
So really, that would be another bullet point that said the chairman may not remove. So, or any agenda items would be removed only by the majority of the board commissioners. Is that what you're looking for?
Everyone understands we're looking at the top of page 12.
Number 5.
Yes.
Top page 12, yeah.
So yes, we're looking at the top of page 12.
Yeah, I,
If you're looking at the top of page 12, it does talk a little bit under item number 7. Consent agenda items will be recommended by the county administrator and approved by the board chairman prior to distribution of the agenda. But that just talks about consent agenda. I don't see anything that says where the chairman gets to overrule.
So let me just do that.
Could we add a statement in there clarifying that to indicate that the chair may not have final decision on it? Commissioner Rourke, you look puzzled.
I'm very, very puzzled. We're all elected officials in our own area. And no one can take off the power that I want to put on for the agenda, especially the chairman, vice chairman, or anybody else. That comes with the duties when you become elected that, and if that happened once, it should be like you said, Mr. Russell, it should be an understanding.
Is this group comfortable with it just being an understanding and not try to clarify? Yes.
I don't see any harm in writing that down in one sentence, just to clarify it, because it was, that authority was taken by a chair in the past, and I think it's harmless to write it down and protects us.
Commissioner Lutton.
There was a purpose behind what Chairman Bunnick had done. His interpretation came from something else within the board rules, and that was his interpretation. I do not know how you are going to put this into words to clarify that any better. We do have, unless it's just how it is placed on the agenda, to reaffirm or to clarify or to readdress an issue. Because that's what he's saying. He said it was dealt with, and you were asking for it to be readdressed. So if you feel strongly about this, I would suggest you get the wording. Again, it would have to be run by our attorney, make sure we're on the right track and bring it back to us if we feel strongly about this. But I don't think we can find the wording and vote on new wording today that's going to change that. Does that make sense?
If commissioners are comfortable, we'll just have the understanding that that's the way we operate. That any commissioner may send to Laurel's office an agenda item that will remain on the agenda until we approve or amend or delete at the meeting. Everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other suggestions for the rules of order? Commissioner Lautner?
On page 6, we had the discussion once before about being notified for special number B, special meetings. It still has fax on there, and I thought we removed fax. Does anyone still use fax?
We do on a time, and I think it's in the law.
Yeah.
Oh, is it a law? That's why we have to
But we
remove it.
try to do email plus call.
Well, yeah, and well, this is my point. We're using email, we're using telephone call. I guess nobody's really using fax, but by law, we're still allowed to use fax, so we have to leave it in here.
We certainly can check, but last we knew, it would be rare.
Yeah, but I'm gonna get through. Okay, then we have telephone call, but no text. Was text not considered illegal?
It's better for us to get a hard copy of something. So by being able to just respond with, yes, I approve of this meeting via an email response to the request we send out, we forward that on to the clerk to draft her notice.
No, I get that, but that again, that's an email.
The issue with a text, oh, is it okay? The
Yes.
issue with the text, like for my office, is we don't have county cell phones, they're just our private cell phones. And I'm not gonna subject my private cell phone to.
Are you the only office without county phones?
I don't think the prosecutor has one, and a couple others don't, we just don't. We have our own private ones.
So we leave fax on there.
That doesn't mean we have to do all these ways.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I just, it's ancient. I
Right.
don't know if anybody faxes anymore. Maybe they do.
That's really interesting that you said that, Melinda, because I went on the website yesterday and you have a fax number on your page. So, yeah, because I thought too, I mean, I don't have a fax number. And I just had my personal cell phone and I did get a phone call yesterday already because
We
of it.
do receive faxes from certain agencies
Do you?
into our copy machine.
Okay.
I don't own a fax machine anymore. That shows how outdated our website is.
Duly noted.
Any other suggestions on the rules of orders? These are what guide our meetings and how we function. Commissioner Ward?
Yes, sir. Page 10, and I've talked with this about other members here, and I just want to bring it up for discussion, just to say we talked about it. And that's members of the public addressing the 5 minutes per person. And I've only attended 4 or 5 board meetings before this, but my question would be, it would kind of be rude to say, okay, agenda items only, and then at the end, public comment. We do that in Elmwood, and I just wanted to hear what everybody else thinks about it.
Yes.
Let's discuss that. Commissioner Morgan?
I've heard that discussed also. I have a strong belief that we are elected by the people who come to these meetings. And the people who come are interested, involved citizens, and I commend that. I was also out there for a long time, so making that public comment, but we encourage people to come to our meetings. We ask them to come. We want them to be involved. And logistically, it would be very, very difficult for most people to hold a comment on something not on the agenda till the end of the meeting, just because of the logistics. We don't know when we're gonna end. They have no idea. And very, very few people, other than Steve and maybe Eric, stay the whole time. So while it would maybe shorten our public comment period, I just don't believe that that's something we should do. I don't believe it's our job to curtail what our public is. We work with them.
Other comments on that issue? Commissioner Lawton?
We have the ability as commissioners to share comments that we've received before the meeting on issues that will be on the agenda. And those not on the agenda, we have that ability to share those. I have heard of a lot of organizations that do it this way. First because by law, has the law changed? We have to offer one public comment, beginning or end, or if it's one at the end. Okay, so by law, we offer one public comment. We offer 2 public comments. So the first one could be on agenda items for the executive board meeting, which tends to be the long meeting. We would go into the meeting with public comment being only those action items planned that day. Good. The only problem, well, and there's no other way to get around it, but if there's an agenda item added after public comment, they wouldn't have an ability to speak to it. They don't now, and we've never gotten around that. You can either have a public comment before the agenda or after the agenda, or that is another consideration, is moving that. But if the executive meeting were to be public comment on agenda items, and then your regular board meeting could be public comment on anything before the meeting, not just agenda items. That's just a thought.
Anybody else before we recognize Gwen for a second comment?
I have a question. Where did the 5 minutes come into play as the time frame that they're allowed to give comment?
It's approved by the Board of Commissioners when you set your rules of order and procedure. You determine that amount.
Okay.
It used to be 3.
I have a background in television and radio and public speaking, and 5 minutes is a considerable amount of time. And I think there is a past president who had said, if you give him 15 minutes to speak, it will take him an hour to write the speech. But if you give him 2 minutes or 1 minute, it'll take a week. So I think it comes down to how, I mean, I also think the public could potentially be more concise in their comments if we limited the time potentially that they're speaking.
You know, that's a good point. We could go to like 3 minutes. Commissioner Lautner made some really good points. And that's one of the things I thought of too, was saying, okay, we'll allow public comment at the public meeting, but we have a lot of people who in the wintertime don't want to drive here at 7 at night because it's been dark for 2 hours, our roads get snowy and icy. So I think logistically here in this county, that's difficult. So as a compromise, I like 3 minutes. I would be in favor of trying that.
Is that a motion?
I would make that motion.
I would support it.
Discussion.
So that would be for all of our meetings. We're gonna make 3 minutes for both the beginning and the ending opportunity, 3 minutes.
Is that what the motion is?
Sure.
So changing the motion is to change our public comment period to 3 minutes per individual instead of
For all meetings.
for all meetings.
I would amend that motion. We have a regular who's shaking his head. He would like 5 minutes at the end of the meeting. And I would amend that to allow 5 minutes at the end of the meeting. If you wait that long to hear from us,
Support.
you deserve 5 minutes.
Is it possible to, for the chair, if the person has something that's everybody who's quite important, to extend his 3 minutes?
The chair can ask support of the board to allow that.
Okay.
So we have an amendment on the floor that says 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting, 5 minutes at the end of the meeting. That's the amendment. Any further discussion on that? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And now we'll vote on the original motion, which is 3 minutes before and 5 minutes at the end. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We have a change to our public comment rules so that we will be allowing 3 minutes before the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, and 5 minutes at the end of the meeting for both meetings. Right? Thank you, Mr. Rourke. Yes, sir.
I would just like to draw the commissioner's attention to page 5. It also goes along with the meeting schedule. We just want to get confirmation. A couple of years ago, because of the way the days fell in December, you generally meet the second Tuesday of every month for your executive and the third Tuesday of the month for your regular, with the exception of October as a rule, because that's is our statutory annual meeting. But again, on page 5, lines 24 and 25, we just wanted you to review that to make sure. In December, the last 2 years, it's been the first Tuesday and the second Tuesday. I just want to let you know, it's obviously truly up to you. But your regular session in November of 2023 will be on November 21st. There would be an open week, and then if you keep it at the first Tuesday, for executive, it would be December 5th, and then the regular session would be December 12th. And normally your executive would be December 12th, and then your regular the 19th. We just want to clarify, if you want that switch, is it too close for Christmas to you? Now the dates are spreading out a little bit. We just want to bring that to your attention so you address that.
If I may, I believe that's the next item on the agenda, Michelle.
Oh, is
The
it?
approval of the 2023 meeting schedule.
Oh, okay, perfect.
But that was certainly a point, a good point of discussion.
Because it's listed in your rules of order procedures.
Correct.
So we'll delay that decision until we get to the next agenda. Any other changes to our rules of order? Obviously, we can change these during the year as well, but these are our operating rules. Any changes, any additions, deletions, edits? Would I have a motion to approve the rules of order as presented?
I move to approve the rules of order as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
We have seven ayes. Thank you. We now are at the meeting schedule. And that is on page 5 of our rules of order. So what are your wishes on that? You understand the concern that the clerk is pointing out? Very short time span between the November board meeting and the December board.
I would just note that this year we ended up having a special call meeting right at the end of the year, again, for some unresolved items. I guess if you move the dates earlier, December, it would leave you more of an opportunity to do that and not have to do it right on Christmas Eve day or something like that. So that's just my thoughts. I guess I would support by moving those December to the 1st and 2nd Tuesday.
Any opposition to having the meeting schedule as presented then? That's what you're suggesting, Doug?
Correct.
Can I have a motion of support for that?
That was a motion by Rexroth, seconded by Lautner.
Yes.
Yes. All those in support of the motion say aye.
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 Thank you. Now, if you'll go to page 19 of our handout of our Laurel is done. Thank you, Laurel. We have the schedule for the monthly updates from departments and agencies.
Mr. Chairman, this is just for information only. You don't really need to act on it because it's kind of a working document.
Unless there's objection, I'm going to keep asking Ms. Allen and Laurel to ask our presenters to assume we read their presentations in advance and try to keep those presentations down to a 5 or 6 minute presentation followed by as much discussion as we want. But sometimes it's almost 11 a.m. on Tuesdays before we get through those presentations. But that's open for discussion. Yes.
We have incredible boards and programs and commissions. They work all year. We supply their money. And I hate the idea that when they come in to present to us very proudly what they have done for our community, we are in a hurry. We only meet once a month for a long meeting. They only get to come in once a year. And every bone in my body wants to hear what they have to say. I'm proud of them. Now, I think telling them that we will have read their stuff, that's a good idea. So they don't just read. But I sure don't want to tell them, well, we're going to give you 5 minutes. So, how about 10?
Thank you. Other thoughts? Linda?
Well, I appreciate that sentiment since this was my brainchild to have our departments come before us. And I asked for that a number of years ago, and they have been doing that. I believe what the chairman is trying to avoid is having us receive a PowerPoint presentation, which we read, and then have the presenter go through the PowerPoint presentation word for word. It's available, it's in the packet. So if the public would like to have that, read it as we do, they've got the ability to do that. By us just saying, thank you for coming, we've received your presentation, they have 5 minutes to expand on it or allow us to ask questions on it or make statements about it, etc. And if I'm right by saying 5 minutes, you know it's going to be 10 or 15. But by letting them know ahead of time that we do have a full agenda, we have a full day ahead of us, we've read your presentation, what would you like to share with us? I think that by saying, I think that that's a good policy to start with, because it does give them the opportunity to come before us. It gives us the opportunity to ask any questions about it, and it gives the general public an ability to put faces with names. However, I have noticed in the past quite often that we don't get full names, and I think that we should work on that a little bit more, having them introduce themselves or someone introduce them better. Even last name spellings are sometimes helpful. That's my thoughts on it.
I would agree with Commissioner Alguier that, we have a great staff and that we do appreciate their work. I don't believe that limiting their discussion time diminishes that appreciation or the recognition of their good work. I think it's just a recognition of expediency. And so I think, I think that idea is a good idea. I mean, if they really have something important to say and it needs further discussion, and it's in our, you would still have the opportunity, Chairman Russell, to say, okay, continue on by agreement of the board. That's my thoughts.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add too, that there's 4 of us that are new to this, so a lot of the information that they'll be sharing will be the first time, So I would encourage just enough time for our questions. So, yeah, but the 5-minute presentation is really.
Would not have to be a hard and fast rule either. It could be, let's encourage them to consider the length of our agenda and also let them know that we're all going to have read the presentation before we come. We can use their time wisely.
I've heard all of your comments and I appreciate that. And I will work with the department heads to make sure the presenters that they are mindful of that and have perhaps an executive summary or something of that to hand out to the board as well as their packet so that we're being mindful of time.
And let them know we really want to hear from them.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other discussion on that issue?
Could I just, the green, the red, blue on this draft document? So like the drain commissioners in January, and he's confirmed, what date is he coming? On the 10th? Do you know what I'm looking at that?
It says in the highlighted area, executive board.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, now we're down on our agenda to item 6, Commissioner appointments to boards, commissions, committees, and authorities. And in anticipation of the possibility of becoming chair, I spent some time this weekend going through all of your requests and all of your interests, and I have prepared a suggested list. This group has to approve the chair's appointments to these committees and commissions. But I would like to hand this out and then ask for any discussion you want to have. What I've tried to do is make sure that everybody had about the same number of assignments, that everybody had at least one of their requests honored. everybody that has been on a committee assignment and has been actively involved in that want to remain in that. I tried to honor that. And I think it's a fair one. And I also would suggest that probably nobody will leave here thinking they got everything they wanted. And nobody will leave here thinking they didn't get anything they wanted. And if we're all just a little bit unhappy, and Emily probably did a good job. So I would pass this out and ask us to have this. Yeah, would you?
Please.
Make one comment on here before we open it up to discussion. That last year's Board of Commissioners approved a resolution to change the dam authority. And we will be doing that officially in January, anticipating that we're going to approve that. I did include the commissioner recommendation to the dam authority on this list. And it was my view that it ought to be the commissioner from Leelanau Township. And so that's why Kama's name is there for the dam authority, recognizing that that couldn't become official until after our January board meeting. But this is a list. I would open it up to discussion if you have any. I would also be very willing to talk to you individually if you have a concern. And I'm certain if there was a big concern, we could work out some adjustments by finding somebody else that might have different interest as well. But this is my recommendation. And I offer that to you for your approval.
Just one correction, it's Northern Michigan Community Action Agency.
Oh, yes, you can tell I was born and raised in West Michigan and not Northern Michigan. And the West Michigan group is a good one too, but yes, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency.
Yeah, Northwest. See, I was wrong too.
Any other, could I have a motion then to approve this list of commission and committee assignments?
Do we have any discussion at all?
Standing committees? Maybe I'm missing it, but I'm not seeing Kramer under any of the standing committees.
No, you're not. And I think that Kama was going to be on dam and Kramer was going to be on, no.
I wasn't either, but I know you would express. an interest.
Just a second here.
Oh,
because-
yeah.
Are you comfortable with that?
I am.
We will change the senior services to.
Yeah.
To
I mentioned. I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
senior services, it was Wynn and Jamie, not Cam. What I tried to do is give every commissioner a standing committee, so that was it there. Thank you.
O'Rourke. Building safety?
Yeah, I don't see O'Rourke. Got Rexford on building and grounds and building safety.
Or buildings and grounds?
I would probably have more input in building safety because that encompasses the code office, right?
Right.
And having spent, all of my adult life doing that, I think I have something to bring there, so I think I would.
Right.
Jim,
Would you be willing to serve on buildings and ground?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Any other changes to this list?
So the finances and audit is.
I wanted to suggest, I wanted to talk about finances and audit committees. In the past, the Finance and Audit Committee has been the chair and the vice chair. I I am proposing that we treat finance and audit as a committee of the whole. I think managing our finances is probably what all of us have responsibility for as a total commission. And it makes sense to me that we do finances and deal with that as a committee of the whole. If that makes sense to you, that would be my preference.
I support that wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Melinda, you've been on that in the past. Would you support that?
I think we talked about that, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Any disagreement? Could I have a motion then to approve this list of assignments as amended?
I will make the motion to approve the list as amended.
Support.
Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes 7-0. I want to thank you for that. I appreciate the input you offered this weekend to put that together, not knowing about the election of the chair. And I assume several people might have put their own list together. Thank you. We are now down to item 8. We combined 7 and 8 there, Melinda. Michelle, are you clear on that?
6 and 7.
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
So we're now down to the goals discussion, and I asked Alan to introduce that.
That's your packets at your places this morning. I just included the proposed 2023 board goals. This was the information that was shared based on the cards at the orientation that we had. So this is by no means an inclusive list. This is just kind of a starting point for discussion. And it also does not recognize the current projects and major goals that the board has continues to support, such as the broadband, such as the HVAC system, and things that the board has voted on in the past to support the support of mental health, the support of the health department in terms of the building downstairs. So a lot of those things are not represented on here. So again, this is not an inclusive list. This was just presented based on the feedback that we got at that orientation. And I know that Commissioner Lautner was not there. So I don't by any means propose these as the only items. This is just to kind of initiate some discussion.
I would propose that we go through around the table and have everybody make a comment about goals and about this list, and then we'll have discussion. Start down at the other end of the table. Linda?
I'm not a big fan of goals for a board of commissioners. We all come from different districts. And we've all been elected to represent that district as best we can. So if we set a list of goals, we're going to be expected to support a list of goals. I can't always support goals put forward by another commissioner that may benefit a different mindset than what I feel represents my district. Therefore, I've never been a big fan of goals. I think it's fine to put out there perhaps what you might want to work on is just leave it out there at that. Everybody can read that. It's nothing we have to vote on. That being said, I think it was summed up best in public comment this morning by Mr. Mikowski. If we had one goal, and he does it so eloquently, and I wish I could do it, but if we are to look at providing to our constituents the best, I wish I could do word for word, best government least cost, concentrate on our mandated services, and move forward. Because what's going to be the most important is the fiscal responsibility, because we have some big things coming up. And unless you want to tax our citizens to death here in Leelanau County, some of these things are just unattainable. Obviously, some things are just obvious, as our administrator just said. We're going to be working with the state. We want to go after as many grant dollars as possible. That's a given. We're going to try to work with the state whenever possible and when they can provide things. We don't need to duplicate those services. So the least cost best service to our citizens, no new millages, and that certainly is my goal.
Thank you.
Sure work.
Well, the first thing on here is stop the gossip between offices. Okay, you should come down to your sixth grade report card, how you got along well with others. And just think about that for a minute. You want, it should happen before the board. You want to call a fellow board member this or that. Everything we do trickles down to other people. Just remember that. And the other thing that I have on here, move the health department to the lower level of government center. I need to get up to speed on this because I understand that we're going to spend this much money to have it looked at and redo and move them down there. And then we're going to talk to them about maybe them kicking in some money. That's sort of like, I want to go out and rent a house and we'll talk about how much I want to pay later. I think we need to look into that as a new board member. I'm not up to speed, okay? But as a new board member, why do I want to move why don't I move the Secretary of State? I mean, where do you start and where do you stop? Okay, so we are a growing county and we're going to need all the space we have. So other than that, it looks real good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, some of these seem like common sense, right? I mean, trying to get along together, trying to act in a unified manner. It's pretty hard to argue with those items. I don't think anyone could not support the bathroom breaks. I think that's an excellent idea. But I think it's, the things that aren't on here are like first priorities. So I concur with Commissioner Lautner's statements. I mean, I just got a list here. And I mean, I have the numbers exact, but I think the HVAC problem is about 3.3 million. We have a 1.4 million hole in our broadband that may be filled, but we don't know that. We have commitments to a tower. We have commitments to, semi-commitments to the tower health department possible. We have, I think, some other building problems that we're not fully aware of yet, that I've heard rumor of. So we have some really big problems to take care of that affect finances, and looking at any of the rest of these before those. Doesn't seem like it's being responsible for the taxpayers of the county who already have holes we got to fill. And so, I mean, the ideas of this, I kind of concur with Commissioner Lautner's comments, and these are the discussions as far as putting it down as goals. It'd be hard for me to endorse that until we have a plan for the other big, massive things that are sitting right in front of us that we are actually mandated to take care of our own buildings, building and safety, the safety of our citizens as regards to towers. So, look at the rest of it. It's not like bad ideas for discussion, but I think we have some bigger fish to fry.
I agree with Commissioner Rexroth. I do think that maybe amending this list would be something that we could do. However, I disagree with Commissioner Lautner. In research that I did about county government before stepping into this role, goals are a really important thing to try to attain as we move together as one commission and we serve all of our constituents. So yeah, I think for proposed 2023 board goals look great. If we could add or amend, that might be something that we could think about.
Thank you. Yeah, so in another life, I was actually a facilitator for team building for all sorts of different kinds of groups, whether they were a church group or a corporate group. I spent 11 years of my life making sure that people left our sessions better equipped to work well together. And I would really encourage us to explore possibilities as a new board with 4 new members, 3 veteran members, to explore our leadership styles and our understanding of goals and objectives. Maybe we could all educate ourselves a little bit more about what really goals, how goals serve a body, and how we could maybe agree on goals that would then allow our objectives to fall into place and prioritize those. So I would be totally in favor of exploring that option so that we start this new year in agreement that goals are important. Goals are important to our citizens who we represent. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a good list. The workforce, affordable housing, we need to find a funding source, not taxing our citizens, but being willing, we have a lot of work to do on this, whether we can put in something like a hotel tax. Can we have a tax on home sales over a certain amount? But when I have attended sessions at conferences with people all over the country who are dealing with this issue, this is an issue all over the nation, especially in tourist dominated counties. People have put in a sales tax, for instance, on housing. Some people have put in a millage, which I don't support. But there are creative ways to do it. It's a project, and somehow we need to find a funding source that where the money does not come from our citizens on a tax bill, but that we are dealing effectively with that issue. We have talked for a long time about a wage study this year. I believe we need to act on that. My district still needs broadband. That's got to be a goal. We've got to find funding to finish our broadband project. So thank you, Commissioner Rexroth, for mentioning that. Meanwhile, we've got some initiatives for the region that we need to support while it's not our task alone. The juvenile detention facility is a regional issue. We are supporting our judge and a few people in the court are attending meetings now. It will be our task this year to be supportive of that in any way we can. There's a lot going on in community mental health. That is an issue that needs solutions, and I don't know what our role will be, but we need to be aware of the fact that we want to be supportive of that. And I have no idea how, but that's going on, so we need to be aware of that. Commissioner O'Rourke, we've been working on getting environmental health. We've been talking about getting environmental health into our lower level for a year, or at least for a year and a half. So yeah, it's a good thing to get on board with and to find out why. That is beautiful, expensive, undeveloped space downstairs. And it sure is pretty expensive to be storing canoes and bikes. So I invite you to go down there and look at that space. It would be a good move for our citizens because they come, they need to go to the conservation district, they need to go to the construction codes, and they can do environmental health. They can do it all in one trip. in one building. So, and they need the space. And we've got very expensive unused space. So I invite you to learn about what we've been talking about for a long time. And I support the other goals that we've talked about here. And there are some really inexpensive ones, like having a bottle, it's $600 to convert a drinking fountain to one that also fills bottles. That just makes sense, and we could get rid of plastic water bottles. I imagine we're spending a whole lot more than $600 a year buying plastic water bottles.
Thank you. I agree that we have to address the juvenile detention needs that the board has had problems with. And I don't think we can do that locally, but I think as a regional partner with our court system and our agencies, we have to find a solution to that because we don't have any place to put juveniles that have to be detained. And they can't be kept in our jails. We need to keep them in a detention center. So I think we must agree that we're going to work with our partners on that. I like the rest of the goals. I knew we were having this discussion, so I brought the Leelanau Ticker article in because I spelled out my goal yesterday in the Leelanau Ticker. I'd like to read it, and then I'd like to have Deb read hers. But the Ticker reached out and said, okay, you're one commissioner, what are your goals? Either personal goals or private goals. So I said, as a husband, father, grandfather, and community member, I hope for good health, good fortune, and good times for my family, friends, and community members. I also hope that all of us can put aside our differences, demonstrate stability in our relationships, and work together to achieve progress. As commissioner, I hope that residents see the county commissioners working well together, serious about the process of decision-making, focused on serving constituents, demonstrating wise fiscal management, and preserving the county's reputation as a wonderful place to live, work, raise a family, and play. I am optimistic that 2023 will be a great year. That is my goal for us working together. And I think along with that, I left out this when I wrote the ticker, that we don't do stupid stuff. And that we work together and we do the stuff that really matters. But it's very important to me that the people out there see us disagreeing with respect, agreeing with respect, and working together. And I think if we do that, we'll have this. That's my statement. But yours was more philosophical.
I apologize with traveling. I haven't even had the chance to see this in print, so. It's right.
Well, you'll have to do it next week.
Okay. Basically, it was, I believe, what we had talked about earlier is kind of like, this, everything that we need to know, we should have learned in kindergarten, right? In terms of respecting people, being forthright, being honest, and I mentioned with Desirata, which is a poem that I subscribe to, that talks about hearing people and being kind and having being encouraging of others. So I appreciate Commissioner Wessel kind of pulling me out on that, but if you have a chance, take a look at it. It was just really more personal goals than it was for the county, since I knew we were going into this session, and this is really the commissioner's opportunities and those goals. So I look forward to working with you all to achieve them.
I'd like to add. We have talked quite a bit about the fact that we know there are a lot of grants out there that we're missing. So somehow we need to develop how to address that. You're only one person. We need so that we can access some of the money points.
What I'd like to work on, and something that I've done before, is a grant timeline. So that we actually have a calendar when we know what standard state and federal grants are available. We know the timeline on that. We know what their deadlines are. We know what the objectives of that grant are, those grants are. And then we can, and I will certainly work with Trudy on that and all the department heads to identify what their respective grants are and come up with one master list so that we are managing. I know there are some that are coming up quickly in the next 30 days. They're on the radar, but I think it would be very helpful to have one master sheet so that we're tracking all of those grants effectively. I will work on.
I'd just like to reiterate, though, that we need to look at the definition of what goal setting means. And I think we are not in agreement on what we are even discussing. Ty, you summed up your goals, and it's overarching, and it would encompass so many of the objectives that I know everyone on this board feels passionate about. But I really do agree that we need to agree on our goals. As a board, we cannot go forward this year without saying to each other that we agree that these goals of whatever are what we are going to make all of our other decisions based upon, and we're going to refer back to that constantly. Every session, we should be looking, are we fulfilling our goals that we agreed upon at the beginning of the year? I worry what Eric's going to write in the paper. If we tell our constituents that we cannot even come up with an agreement on setting goals, I don't know if they're going to have faith in our work that we're ready to offer and serve. So I'm going to be a stickler in this, but I believe in goals, and I know it would help us be better commissioners and a better board.
And I don't disagree with that, but it was not my intention today that we were going to leave this meeting with a set goal, because I think everybody's not in the same spot. We need to hear about our HVAC, we need to hear about our finances, we need to hear about. So I think we'll have to revisit this, and at that time, come up with concrete goals. That would be my thought.
So how are you suggesting a meeting to deal with goals? A special meeting to deal with goals?
I guess I'd throw that out. We normally wouldn't establish our goals at our organizational meeting.
Right.
And especially when we have four brand new commissioners, we would.
No, I know. So we've got to know how we're going to do it, though. I support not doing it today.
Melinda?
You know, right up at the beginning, we've got to create a cohesive board staff, and I'm kind of disappointed in some of what I'm hearing comments coming about. So let's just not assume that people don't understand how goals work and what their ability to cause damage can be. So how about we just do take a step back, and I think it would behoove, especially all the new commissioners, to find out first what we are doing already with a lot of these things that have been put down on this great wish list here. You know, we've already got committees, boards, and processes in place on everything here. So I guess by putting it down as a goal, what is the goal? You're gonna double down on it? You're gonna back off on it? Are we gonna continue the path forward? So as I said, to make a board of commissioners, 7 different districts, 7 different personalities, vote on goals is, I think, extremely unfair, because there can be one that a commissioner absolutely doesn't agree with, and that would force them to vote no on all the board goals. And I think that is just extremely unfair. So I think it causes division. So how about we first just learn what we're already doing, what our committees and boards are doing already to tackle these problems, And when there is an issue, bring them back. I look back on things that this board of commissioners did last year that were never in the board goals. They just sprung up. And this board took action on them. So that's generally how it's done. As I said before, and I will stand on it, the best statement for goals is the statement made this morning in public comment. That's our job.
Yes.
I would just, I believe Commissioner Lautner is correct, where us new commissioners need to get up to speed a little bit more before we establish goals. But I think establishing goals for all of us is a great idea. So if you establish a goal to be healthier in the new year, there are lots of different avenues and lots of ways that we can go about it, but at least knowing where we're headed, I think is pivotal pivotal for all of us moving forward and the county at large.
So I'm brand new at this, of course, but I think that the idea of us trying to work together and have mutual respect, that kind of foments some of this stuff working out anyway. I mean, it can organically work out. It doesn't have to be written down. It's sometimes writing down puts people, and like I said, we're all in different spots and have a different set of constituents. Our statutory requirement is to listen to our constituents and to exercise the best government we can for them with the least cost amount of money. And those things involve things like cost benefit analysis. I mean, saying to do a unilateral thing without understanding the costs and the benefit, that I don't think that we can endorse that as doing our job. So and I think Commissioner Lautner, to her defense, I mean, she did state a goal to provide the best possible government that serves all our citizens for the least possible cost. And that's a great goal. And that's, I think, actually what we're bound to do, to serve our constituents. So I think, yeah, today's not the day. And I kind of side more with the idea of let's work together, learn what we need to do, learn how to get along together, and learn, what our reasons for wanting things are. And then some of this will happen organically if it's the thing that serves the citizens and they support it. And we have a lot of support, then it should work out the way it should work out.
How about if we give our newer commissioners this month to familiarize yourselves with some of these issues, and that we set a special meeting in February to deal with goals. I don't think we should put it off too long. As Commissioner Ross mentioned, that our goals give us direction. And we can make sure at the end of I don't think any of these goals suggest raising taxes. None of us want to raise taxes on anyone. It's how we utilize the taxes that are collected to better the lives and address the issues and needs of the people in our county. And Commissioner Lautner's comments about townships within that we represent is a very, very good point. I just want to add that we as a commission absolutely represent our townships, but on the Board of Commissioners, we also represent the county. And township goals alone are dealt with at the township. And so, yes, we need to work hard for our districts, but we are also here to represent every citizen in the county. So, no one's talking about raising taxes here. None of us want to do that, but we do have decisions about how to utilize the resources we already have. So I would suggest that we set a meeting in February to deal with this so that then we can proceed, be an effective board and serve our citizens as they ask us to.
We could add goals on our executive committee in February and have some discussion at that time and see if we're prepared at that time to have a special meeting still in February. But let's see how the new commissioners feel. Let's see if we've all had a chance to attend one of our committee and commission meetings. We'll be more informed at that time. I think. If we could agree to revisit goals at our February executive committee meeting with the question to be answered at that time, are we ready for a goals workshop?
And or we could set a special meeting after our meeting, executive meeting. We've done that before to deal with goals.
We certainly could. Are we comfortable with that path?
No,
I am not. No,
Yes.
the work is already out there. And like Mr. Berkhold stated, we have a lot. Like, I have been to the meetings. You have meetings that are like unbelievable. Now, I just really hate the word special meetings. Okay, that's in the normal course of our work, we have on the agenda, we bring items on the agenda. Your goal is to do the best you can. You do the best you can. That's what it is. One thing I have learned in government, working 20 years in government, it takes years to get something going that you may think you can get right. We have a lot of the work that the commissioners behind us have done. We just need to pick up the speed, do the best job. But I don't need a special meeting to tell me what goals is out there. We should know that.
We need to state goals out loud and agree on them. I'm gonna say that again, and what we need is Melinda's 25 years of experience to help us shape those goals. We need Jamie's fresh exposure to county government to adequately, represent everybody in our county. We have 4 new people on this board. Let's come to an agreement that we believe in these things together, and then we can work on the details. But I'm sorry, I hate to be divided on goals from the very beginning. And I would support whatever going forward to give us a chance to have this conversation, a good conversation about this.
I'd also like to add that being in the business world, which I know several commissioners on this board are as well, you start with a business plan. It doesn't mean that your business plan is always going to go to the T right where you thought it was going to. There are going to be side steps and pivots, but it is about us working together as a team and cohesively trying to accomplish those things. And there will be pivots and there will be things that change, and we'll all bring different ideas to how we can accomplish these goals. But I think just outlining it and getting outside of our own individual heads collectively could be a really great move for us as a commission.
Anyway.
we talk about working cohesively and we talk about not causing division, and yet we have people pushing for us to have goals. I suggest 2 things. One, why doesn't everyone just come forward with their list of goals for their 2 years here, sitting here? And if you choose to share it with the rest of the board, we will all know what your goals are. Or we can all bring our goals, and the goals that all 7 of us agree on and want to move forward on will be our goals. But if there are any objections to any goal from anyone, it does not move forward or make the list of goals that we will work for as a board. Otherwise, you will have division. And I'm going to go back to, and we don't need to be patronizing and try to explain how townships work. We all got that. We're there. So let's go down to just first, and you don't need to set a date a month out. We will take this where it goes, but it may take longer. It may take a couple months for someone to sit on a committee if it's new to them to gather what's already being done. You know, and I stopped short of saying that, you know, to a new commissioner that I will get you on board with the plan or off board with a plan to ruin the last available space we have in our county building for future growth for the county. I think that's very unfair to do. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and I think we need to give all commissioners that kind of time. And that's where I stand on it. If you have a goal that all 7 of us can agree on, let's move it forward.
I suggest that we take just a couple more comments and then we be done with this for today. I also suspect that if we're successful, if you could buy the goal that I put down in my ticker article, that we're working together to improve services and we're working collectively, we're going to be able to do this. And I think we'll revisit it. I know we'll revisit it anytime somebody on this table wants to have update on goals on the agenda, it'll be on the agenda. But we probably are running out of new things to say this morning.
Yes, I would certainly like to see this on the agenda. We do need to resolve this. The earlier in the year that we do it, the better, so that we have a direction, we know our direction. Knowing that all of us are working for the good of our constituents and how to use their money wisely. Having a unanimous vote would, I think we've already dealt with our board rules, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. We never addressed that in board rules. So I'm glad we had this initial discussion. Thank you.
Any last comments? Then we'll move on to the next agenda item. And this isn't on the agenda, but just we do have to have a special meeting. Sorry, Jim. After the executive committee meeting to handle a Solon Township recycling site issue. So this is coming around, and we'll do that right after the executive committee meeting next Tuesday. Yeah.
Yes, sir, and that's very important. Special meetings should be for very important items that need to be done right away. And I believe the Solon is a major problem right now.
That's true.
Any last comments before we open up to public comment? Murkowski. Yes.
Congratulations, you're now in a position to do governance. And I think we need to understand what we're trying to do here. In the private sector, there's no such thing as a goal. It's an objective. Who does what, when? I think this exercise of goals has been overrun by 20 minutes. I've lived and worked under management by objectives. And your primary goal, only goal, is to serve the people based on MCL 46.11. 46.11 doesn't say you have to do anything with housing. There's no mandate from there. And it also does not say or does not mandate special interest millages. One of the things that intrigued me is or fascinates me was that we want to fix what isn't broken. The issue of number of minutes before the meeting for the public comment has been working well, but we want to fix it. I'm astounded by first, new commissioners wanting to do that. Also, it is not about sound bites. Governance is not about sound bites. It is about performance, getting things done, whatever time it takes, not with little chunks of words. In the private sector, we deal with focus, 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 prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. And you have to work at it hard. So I am encouraging all of you to avoid the use of the word goals. Make them objectives so we have people accountable that we make accountable, that'll do things by when. And if you do that to yourselves, you will not need other goals. You will be serving the people properly and spending all your time. We're talking about broadband. Yeah. We got to find money for broadband. How are we going to get it? It looks to me like we're going to have to use taxpayers' money, right?
I mean, of some sort, but we hope to find funds.
That's correct. Where will you find them? The DTR fund, the piggy bank? The big piggy bank of Leelanau County, the DTR fund. We overbuilt the jail, we overbuilt this courthouse with a piggy bank. We urge all of you to understand the reason for that piggy bank, because it does and cause a lot of wasteful spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, Ms. Allen.
Kind of unlike or uncommon, but I'm going to do it. I did find the comments that Commissioner Wessel was speaking to in terms of the goals, but I did want to just mention, I have heard all of you, and I do have a list of key priorities of things that have been happening over the years and things that we'll continue to work on. And I know that with the new committee structure, there also is already a process in place for some of the feedback to come in terms of what the goals are that will be fed up to the board. So please don't be distraught and feeling that there is no process for goals. I believe there are systems and processes already in place for moving things forward. So again, that may just be a scenario where the oversight and the governance is kind of the key place where this board will live, but that will be your determination. Regarding my 2023 personal goals, first and foremost, pray for grace and express gratitude every day. Strive to understand and then to be understood. Inspire others by leading by example. Strive to be happy. One of my favorite poems is Desiderata by Max Ehrmann. And the last stanza states, and whatever your labors and aspirations in this noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. It is with all the shams, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. We have much to be happy for living here in Northern Michigan, and specifically Leelanau County, the land of delight. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now down at commissioner comments. Gwen.
I would like to address Mr. Makowski's concern about using taxpayer dollar for, there's a lot of state money coming. And I can't call her commissioner Sodas Little anymore, can I? But the LIFT committee is working hard on getting money from elsewhere to fund our broadband. So I don't think any of us have talked about taxing the people who are using DK. We may have to, because broadband is so important. We sure are working hard so that doesn't happen.
Other commissioner comments? Commissioner Lautner.
Only the obvious, and that is all the money is taxpayer money. Unless it's given privately or we're going after private grants, this is all taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So some of it, we obviously used the biggest amount already, which was the ARPA dollars. which are taxpayer dollars. We can hope there might be more ARPA dollars, which are taxpayer dollars. But they are not local taxpayer dollars, other than they're all gonna come out of all of our pocket eventually, anyway, in some form. So let's just not forget. It is taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Yes.
I just like to ask, Leelanau a question, at the risk of sounding not that intelligent. Commissioner Lautner, or anyone else on the board who'd like to answer, if we don't utilize those allocated funds, where would they go?
To other people who will utilize them, and we have already paid that money. And we would be saying, oh, no, we're not gonna use it. We're gonna let other people use it instead. Good question. Thank you.
Yes.
So I agree with Commissioner Algar, if someone else will use them, but we have not already paid that money. Our grandchildren and their children and their children will pay that money.
Amen.
So,
Well, that's happened.
Yeah.
A lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
400 billion.
Any other commissioner comment? I think I get one, and all I'd say is thank you for the privilege and honor of serving as your chair, and always open to questions or concerns or criticism or advice. Happy New Year, everybody. Meeting to adjourn, motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.